There I am. Hello. Okay, hello everyone. How is everybody doing? I just want to get a cue from Tracy that she can hear me and that we're live. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. So if you can give me a cue, Tracy. Yay, I am on. Hey everyone, my name is Dan Krischer and I am product specialist here with Korg US. And first of all, I want to thank the amazing staff, crew, everyone at Kraft Music for making this happen. I apologize for the delay. I had a little bit of technical issues on my side, so we got those all ironed out. I am here to celebrate everything Korg synth-wise, and today we're going to go over pretty much our analog synthesizer series, and that's going to include the Minilogue, the Minilogue XD, and the Prologue. And those will be the three main keyboards that I'll be focusing on. What I want to first talk about, though, is the great thing about where we are right now in the Korg synth line is that all of our synths, pretty much once you learn one, let's say you invest in a Prologue. Once you learn a Prologue, which has a very, very easy learning curve, you can easily migrate to say a Minilogue XD, to the Prologue. The monologue itself is very, very simple. So that's one of the advantages, I think, of our synth line, because if you learn one, let's say, basic piece that maybe it's your first synth that you've bought, then you can easily start growing into our other synthesizers. So let's dive right in. I'm going to switch my camera, and I want to start making some noise. My sort of flow today is show you some of the sonic capabilities of the Minilogue XD. Along with the Prologue, I'm going to have a little bit of groove going along with my Electribe to put the music in context. What I want to do too is show you how to program a pretty complex sound, how to sequence. A lot of people have questions how to use a step sequencer, and any other questions that might arise during my demonstration. All right, let's get going. All right, so excuse me, I'm going to have to get in here in front of the camera and switch over to my overhead. So you're going to see my back for a while. Okay, here we go. Okay, so what I want to do first is I'm going to just go through a couple of sounds here on the Minilogue XD, and just to give you an idea of, again, what its sonic capability is. And the way I have my rig hooked up is I've got the Minilogue XD, I've got my Prologue, I've got my Electribe, I've got it all to a centralized sync box. So everything's being synced together, so we can see how everything interrelates. I can control everything by tempo. All right? So this first patch is a patch that I really like. It's called Wave Sync Pad, and it's a really great example of just the fullness of the Minilogue. Now, one of the things I want to call your attention to here on the camera is, if you notice what's happening, is the sequencer is actually sequencing changes to the third oscillator's different waveform types. And what we'll see soon is that's the kind of power of the Minilogue step sequencer series. And by the way, if you are interested in the wavetable, sequencing is very simple, so you might want to watch a little bit on how to do this. All right. So the next sound I want to introduce you to is this sound. And essentially this is going to show off what we can do with essentially our front panel controls. So again, everything is absolutely real-time control here on the front panel of the Minilogue XD. So what we're listening to is changes to the cutoff and the resonance. Just a little combination there with the Prologue. And next is, this is patch number 91. This is called Dirty Pulse. It's a great example of the LFO that you've got in this synthesizer series. One of the most, what I would say the most really flexible LFOs that you have, especially when you get into the Prologue and what it can do. Now again, I love this patch because it is, in my opinion, it's a really timely patch right now in today's music. Now, one of the things I want to emphasize is our LFO section here is tempo synced. So as I was playing the LFO, I was adjusting the note rate, and it was adjusting in real time. If I adjust my tempo, so again, one of the things that's great about this synthesizer series is LFOs, effects, everything that you're doing within the Minilogue, Monologue, Prologue, everything can be synced to tempo. Okay, let's go to another patch. Let's give you an idea of what we're working with. This patch is called Pressure. So that is Pressure. Then I'm going to give you one more example of what I would call, it's a patch, it's a detuned patch, and I'm going to be showing you the shape knobs, using the shape knobs to essentially change the character of the sound. The other thing too is we're going to switch over and we're going to change the SDK. All right, and what the SDK is, that is our sound designer kit where you can go in and you can load in custom oscillators into both the Minilogue XD and into the Prologue. There's a couple of companies that are making the SDK load-in. Signvibes is one. There's a lot of others out there, so I would encourage you to check them out because it's another way of opening up your Minilogue XD or your Prologue to other sonic capabilities. Okay, that was the patch we were playing before. Let's go to where we were originally going to go, which is 160. All right, here we go. And check out as I change that third oscillator. So again, with the SDK, we have, and the SDK also is our way to get a digital oscillator in. So we're just now, right now, listening to oscillator number 3. And then also, what's nice is there's actually different levels of noise, which is, you may think that may not be useful, but it's great to have when you're creating drum sounds. All right, let's go into actually making a sound. So making sounds is what I think is what makes this, first of all, a great instrument to have. It also opens it up to all of its sonic capabilities, and I think it's the most fun that you can have with the instrument is just making your own sounds. So I'm going to go over to a blank patch, and my blank patch is in all of our analog synth series. A blank patch is always called init program. All right, so to begin, I'm going to turn all my oscillators down, and we're just listening to one oscillator right now. And so let's start building up sound. So I've turned that down an octave, and I've got my shape knob. Shape again. It's like taking the waveform and sort of doing this a little bit. It's playing with just sort of the roundness of the waveforms to give it a different characteristic. So I'm going to give it sort of this pulse width kind of vibe. Now let's bring in oscillator number 2. This knob is called cross mod depth, and what it does is it puts those two oscillators slightly at a phase, so you have a natural sort of chorusing. And the next thing we can add right now is our third oscillator, which is coming from, again, our multi-engine. So let's bring that up. It's kind of nice, but let's go with this one. You can hear it's bringing in sort of that digital characteristic, which is nice. Okay, so I'm going to go with that as my primary sound. All right, so it looks like we're getting into a bass sound. Give that just a little bit release there. Okay, now let's talk about another control here that's on your Minilogue. It's called drive. All right, drive does exactly what it does. It's an overdrive. It can really push the sound if you want. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that right now in the middle. Next section that we have, we're going to go over to this section of the Minilogue, which is the area that we use to manage our voice assignments. Right now we're playing this as a little loud, sorry. So we're playing it as a 4-note polyphonic. So, and by the way, the Minilogue XD has 4 notes of polyphony. I'll get into the specs of the Prologue in a moment. We can take and fatten that up further if we want by stacking all of the oscillators on top of each other. That's called unison. You can hear that makes it extremely kind of fat. The other thing that we have is we've got a setting called chord. And so that enables us, and that's called voice depth. And voice depth so that's if you're on chord. And then we've got ARP Latch, which is exactly what it says. It enables the Arpeggiator to be in latch mode. All right. Let's add some effects next. So we're going to get to our effects section, and we've got 3 types: mod, reverb, and delay. So let's turn on our mod effect. And by the way, you have tons of different effects types. So we have modulation, delay, reverb for our categories, and then within those there are lots of different subcategories for different types of effect types. Let's add a little bit of delay. So same thing, turn that on. So I'm going to go with that as my patch. That's a little industrial patch there. Now let's sequence it. So let's demystify how to sequence, and it's not as hard as it looks. So what you want to do is go over here to the record button. Simply press record, and your first sequence step is going to illuminate. You have up to 64 sequence steps, by the way. We're going to just use 16 in this example. And so the way you first start sequencing is you simply press a note or a chord on the keyboard. So as I'm pretending this is sort of a bass line, so I'm going to start my first note, and then I can then advance using the rest button, which is right here, rest. Okay. So I'm at my next step, and let's do this. And then if we want to tie that note, we press rest again. And you see it advances us to the next step. So I'm going to play B flat. And I tied that over. Let's play a C. Let's add a D. Let's go back to our B flat. And then, again, I'm just making this up as I go along. All right, so that is our phrase. Let's hear what it sounds like. So, vastly different from what we did before, but we've got one other layer of sequencing that we can do, which is motion sequencing. And what is motion sequencing? We have 4 tracks that we can take and record all of our knob and button presses as we're building up this sequence. So the way you do that is just like sequencing. You're going to hit record, you're going to hit play, and you're going to hear, and you're going to be hearing the phrase as it plays. Now, what you're going to do next is press motion sequence. When you press motion sequence, that automatically enables a motion track, And all you have to do is start tweaking whatever you want on the front panel, and you can record those knob twists and other functions. So that's my first track. So let's do something a little with the resonance. Now, you can do even more than just doing knob twists. Let me show you something a little crazy you can do. You can actually change oscillators in real time. So, sounding kind of interesting. However, track 2, where I have that resonate, where I was changing the resonation, I can actually go back if I want and edit that out. So I can go to sequence mode, and I've got places where I can actually go in and let's say I don't like that sequence track. Simple enough. I can take cursor down to it, clear it, and it's gone. And let's hear how the final phrase sounds without that. All right, and if you like that, which frankly I do, I'm going to go to right, press right, and I'm going to write it to the same open space which I'm at right now. So I press right again, and it's complete. So we went from this to this program. Program being all right. So that is really the basic architecture of the Minilogue XD. So we've gone through the basics of getting you through how to create a fairly complex patch. So again, just to go over what we've got, we have 3 oscillators. The oscillators all have multiple waveforms that you can choose from. Remember, you have the multi-engine oscillator, which comes from our sound design kit and our partners who are creating those multi-engine oscillators. Your mixer section is right here. Very simple. This mixes between your oscillators, filter section, LFO section, and then your effects section is right here. And then this is your transport controls here. All right. I want to show you a couple of things here on the Prologue, which differentiates it from our other instruments. Okay, first of all, the Prologue comes in 2 versions. It comes in a 8 voice version, and it comes in a 16 note version. I have the 16 note version here in front of me at the moment. Just that great big analog sound that we're all familiar with from Korg. Again, if you look at the architecture of the Prologue, I'm going to compare it to our other synthesizers. So you've got, again, your oscillator section here. Very similar to the XD, there's our multi-engine. Here is our mixer. Here's our filter section, our ADSR, or our envelope for creating the shape of our envelope, for our filter, and for our ADSR, and of course our effects section here, and our edit buttons here. A little difference between the XD and the Prologue. The Prologue does not have an onboard sequencer. It does have an onboard arpeggiator, but it also has some features that are very much different than any other synthesizer that we have in line, and I want to show you one of the main differences. All right. One of the things you can do with the Prologue is you can split, layer, or fade between patches. And this is a very cool feature because not a lot of synthesizers allow you to do this right now. And so I'm going to dial up one of my favorite patches for this example. And I'm sorry my head's in the camera, but I recently lost my second webcam. So, all right, I have chosen this patch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer two patches on the keyboard, and then I'm going to be able to split those and also crossfade between those. So the first thing I'm going to do is press this button. It's labeled sub on or fetch. Okay? And when I have this on, I'm going to choose this sound. It's called Sherbert. When I do that, it puts an M in the display, and the M means this is my main sound. Okay? Because we have two sounds. Now I'm going to go here, change it to sub, and I'm going to choose another sound. Let's choose this. Okay. And so we're all done. So I can turn this back on, and let's check out the crossfade. So you can see how we've got these sounds crossfading amongst the keyboard. And you can control that where that crossfade point is. All right, we've got layering. And then you can actually split the keyboard. So, kind of basic, just as an example to show you, but and we've thought of everything. So say you're playing this, crossfade, or layering. You've got a mix knob between the two. So, differences between the Prologue and, again, the Minilogue. All right, Prologue 16 has 16 voices. The Prologue 8 has 8 voices, and it's a 49-note keyboard. This is a 61-note keyboard. And, again, the Prologue has our advantages of being able to split, crossfade, layer the keyboard across along with the balance section itself. All right, and we also have the visual master compressor on the final output of the Prologue. Now, comparing the Minilogue, 4 voices, all right, and again, a fully programmable sequencer. You also have an arpeggiator. The Prologue has an arpeggiator as well, and they both share the multi-engine function, and then they also share the same effects, except again, the Prologue has the analog compressor on the output. All right, so which keyboard is for whom? That's a big question. So first of all, one of the keyboards that I want to make sure that everyone does not forget about is this, the Prologue. Excuse me, the Minilogue. The Minilogue is a great either companion or introduction to our keyboard line. The Minilogue virtually has a lot of the same features as the Minilogue XD, except for some of the changes in how you can sequence. There's not a vector stick, and also it's only a 2 oscillator board. But it is an extremely powerful analog synthesizer. By the way, runs on batteries too, which is very cool. You can hear a lot of tracks done on the Minilogue on a lot of recordings. So I would, my opinion, pick up a Minilogue for your studio. You're always going to need it, and it's never going to date. So that is a little bit about the 3 lines that we have. So to finish this off, I'm going to do a quick patch example in the Prologue and show you how to maneuver through the engine in the Prologue, and then hopefully we'll have some questions. So Tracy, if you've got any questions that you want to funnel over to me? Oh, you do. We've got some questions. I think I answered this. Okay. First question, how many multi-timbral parts to the Pro and the XL? Well, this is not a multi-timbral synthesizer. Multi-timbral synthesizer is something else, but this is, again, multi-timbral synthesizer can play multiple sounds at once, timbres. So with the Prologue, again, you can layer up to 2 patches simultaneously. It's the only keyboard in the line you can do that kind of layering. All right. Great. I think I answered that question. Hopefully I did. If I didn't, please, Tracy, if I need to clarify that, I certainly will. All right. Let's finish off here with a Prologue. And I'm just going to say it out loud. Everybody should have a Prologue in their studio. Just makes sense. So I'm going to go to an empty patch. I'm sorry, I have a lot of custom patches, so here we go. Okay, again, we're in a knit program. You have to excuse me. I've worked for a lot of keyboard manufacturers before, so I tend to oscillate between patch, the old school term, and program. We like to use the word program. So very, very basic sound. So we've got a triangle wave. Let's try to do kind of an old school string sound. And a string sound is usually developed through using sawtooth waves. So I want to have that really detuned sound. Nice. Okay. So let's shape our envelope. And let's add one more oscillator or multi. And let's go and add a little bit of effects. So let's add our mod. Let's try a little bit of delay. And so that's just a polyphonic sound. Again, we can go unison stack. Or pure mono if we want. And if we like that, then it's simple enough to write it to memory. Now, don't forget that we also have our LFO section. One other thing I want to point out before I go to the LFO is the Prologue does have the drive. And let's compare this with the compressor off too. So again, you can get a huge, huge sound. We can also, again, don't forget you've got your chord function if you want. That's available to you. And then once we write this, then we can also layer this with other sounds. All right, I have about 6 minutes left. So I am going to see if we have any other questions. All right. And so with that, then I'm going to do just a couple other jams to let you see what we can do here with kind of everything involved. So let's go through and let's just do one more quick jam. And this is going to incorporate all three of our instruments. So, and I'm not going to use, I could use my patch if I wanted to, but instead I'm going to go to a kind of like that because I want to experiment with that while we're playing. So, and what I'm going to do for this last example is I'm actually going to change our programs in real time on the Minilogue XD, and as a way to show you how the DSP is so strong in this synthesizer that it can make real-time changes to tempo without glitching. Here we go. All right, that puts us at about 3 minutes. Excuse my back. I'm going to switch over to my camera. All right. So I'm going to wait for Tracy to send me a few more questions if we have any. Request to demo the Arpeggiator, and can you go into the multi-engine? Of course I can. I don't know if that's the Arpeggiator on the Prologue, but I'll start with that. Let's get something that's Arpeggiator friendly. Okay, perfect. So on the Prologue, you turn the Arpeggiator on simply by pressing the on button. This is a latch button. If you hold the button down, it will tell you what your tempo is. Right now, I've got my Arpeggiator, and let me switch over to my camera. Excuse me for a sec, so you can see what I'm doing. Might help. Okay, so here is our on button. It's also our latch button. If we hold this down, it will tell us what our tempo is. You can adjust the tempo either with the dial here, or you can tap tempo, and then it will tell you your range. Right now my range is set to 3, so I can go in and I can change that. And then the type. And by the way, to do this, you just press the button. So let's set this to 3-octave range. Right now it's poly-random. Let's just go through all the different types. So I've got manual. So that's basically however I hold a chord, that's how it's going to arpeggiate it. And then my other is fall. And let's change back to my sound I was using, excuse me. So. That's random. And let's switch over because this needs to be in poly. Polyrandom is very cool. I like that because it gets a lot of kind of different, what I would say, character, sometimes the arpeggiation phrases, and rise. And again, the arpeggiator, of course, syncs to tempo. And let's bring that down a little bit. So again, all synchronized to tempo. Now let's look at, it's 2 o'clock already, sorry about that. Again, the arpeggiator on the Minilogue is very, very similar in how it's laid out. Just to answer the question on the SDK, all right. So again, that stands for our multi-engine, and SDK, by the way, is Sound Designer. Our Sound Designer kit. All right, so to choose in the multi-engine, there are 4 functions. There is user. User is where you import your own custom multi-engines, again from third parties. The second, this is for the built-in waveforms that are part of the multi-engine, and then the third are the noise forms. All right. Keep in mind that the multi-engine, these are going to be digital oscillators, a digital oscillator, which in my opinion is very important to have. I think that's very cool to have the ability to have something like this combined with the analog architecture. All right, I think I'm out of time. I want to thank everyone at Kraft Music. If you have any questions, you can find me on the internet. My name is Dan Krischer, and I also have a weekly series called Ask a Product Specialist. You can ask me anything in the world about anything electronic music, and I will answer your question. So let me just say goodbye to everybody. So again, thanks everyone for watching. Dan Krischer here. And again, please search me out on YouTube. And if you have any questions about gear, you can chat with me on my weekly show called Ask a Product Specialist. Thank you, Kraft Music. Love you guys, and I will see you later.